Hello and welcome to Vergecast, the flagship podcast of computers that remember everything about you, no matter what. It's going to be great. This is the future. It's been the dream of every person in computing forever, to make sure that the computer never forgets every single thing you looked at ever.
What could possibly go wrong?
And then talks to you in a slightly sensual way. Hi, I'm Nilay. I'm your friend. David Pierce is here.
Hello.
Alex Cranz is here.
Hey.
Just a weird week. Can I tell you what I think the theme of the week is?
Sure.
It's probably broken and I don't believe you.
Oh, that's good.
That's a good theme.
That's kind of where we are in the tech landscape right now. Is you can make your videos, you can tweet your tweets, and then we're going to get your products. And the truth is going to come out, right? Like that's the cycle that we're in. It's great. It's a super great video. I'm glad you paid all the influencers. I'm going to put your face computer on my face, man. And then we're going to know. I'm going to hold your teenage engineering box, and then we're going to know.
I like it because it's one timeline darker than the Is This Anything timeline. And I feel like we were in the Is This Anything timeline for a while, and now it's getting slightly bleaker.
Yeah, it's probably broken, and I don't believe you. We're going to put AI in Google search, and Google search is going to tell you to put glue in your pizza, which is a real headline. By the time you are listening to this, I think Kylie will have that headline up, which is AI previews in Google search are overwhelmingly stupid. Yeah. Mostly because they're reading Reddit, and Reddit is full of jokes, and people are now willfully trying to, like, Google bombing is back.
Yeah.
Because you ask Google, like, what mammal has the most bones, which is a real thing people are doing, and it goes and finds a Reddit joke from 5 years ago that's like, it's snakes.
And it makes you realize, like, the running joke on the internet is that sarcasm and jokes are very hard to understand. It turns out that, like, people still better at it than Google, which is real bad at it.
It's probably broken, and I don't believe you. Again, the theme of the week, there's some exciting news this week. Like, legitimately cool news this week. David, you talked to Tom about everything that happened at Microsoft Build and the Surface event. Legitimately cool news. If that stuff works, the Mac versus PC race is fully back on. Yep. The processor wars are back on with a new metric, right? Like Microsoft has NPUs now with the Qualcomm chips doing AI. Apple has neural engines. That's all really exciting. Boy, do I want that stuff to work. Right? Like, it's just do you not feel like OpenAI this week? We're going to talk about OpenAI and Scarlett Johansson. And it's like, yeah, I don't believe you. Like, what a weird place to be.
It is. And it also, you end up in this place of, like, questioning everybody's intentions all the time too. Like with Microsoft, it's like, oh, Windows on ARM, you did it? That's so exciting. Do you remember all the other times that you told me that you did it? That's really interesting. And then with all this OpenAI stuff, the timelines are weird. Everybody is saying things that don't all make sense simultaneously. And it's just, you get to the point where it's like, does anyone know what they're talking about? And it's just very strange. But I agree with you. And the Microsoft stuff in particular, I thought was both substantially nerdier and substantially more exciting than I expected it to be. Like, it was a wonky build in the best way.
Yeah, let's start there. We are going to talk about OpenAI and Scarlett Johansson later. We're going to have a lightning round, unsponsored.
For now.
We got to start a shoe company that's called Unsponsored and then have the lightning round sponsored by Unsponsored.
That's pretty good.
If you're a shoe investor, call me.
Is it all the logos or is it no logos on the shoe? I think it might be all the logos.
Oh, right. You like bring it all the way back around.
Yeah, it's every shoe logo on it, and it's called Unsponsored. Please. Like, somebody at Mischief is building that right now. They just heard me. You can have that, Mischief. Enjoy.
If you sponsor the lightning round. Look, I'm not saying we're a bunch of IP experts on this show. I'm just saying if you give us cash, we'll give you that idea. Okay, let's start with build, because it was a nerdy build, and I think you guys only really scratched the surface with Tom, who was there. Great job covering it. The big news is obviously the Copilot PCs, right? Copilot Plus PCs, which have the NPU, which are running on the new Snapdragon X processors. It should be noted that the team that built those processors at Qualcomm is from a company called Nuvia, which Qualcomm acquired. Nuvia is a bunch of ex-Apple chip designers. You can see how they caught up.
Yep.
It's a pretty straight line, right? You're losing the Apple chip designers leave. You buy them. Suddenly you're competitive with Apple again. We got to run the benchmarks. We got to get the things. But Cranz, I mean, you're a chip nerd. Do you buy it right now?
I mean, I think it's the Nuvia part of it that makes me kind of cautiously optimistic. And also the fact that laptop makers actually want us to try the laptops. Generally speaking,
that's a big one.
They do not. When it sucks, they're like, are you sure you want this? And they slow roll you, right? Like they wait a while to get it to you, and then you end up having to buy it and review it yourself. And this time they're like, when do you want it? We'll get it to you next week. They're really eager about it, and in a way that like surprised me. I took a few briefings on the laptops, and I was like, oh, you guys are like pumped. I'm not used to that. And it reminds me a lot of when AMD was like coming back, when it was making its big comeback, in like 2017, where suddenly people were like, do you care about AMD? Like, get excited. And I was like, oh, this is weird. But yeah, the MPUs is the big deal here. I think like Microsoft said, if you want to take advantage of the most stuff that's going to be on Windows now, you probably want an MPU in that computer. And MPUs have been around for a while. Like Intel's had them. They're called neural processing units. Everybody's been doing it. You know, Apple calls it a neural engine, whatever. But they've all been doing it. And it's basically just another processor to offload those like tasks that generally you would have put on your GPU or like made your CPU kind of brute force. And now it's like, okay, just for this. And it's like when Intel introduced it a couple of years ago, it was one of those things where you're like, okay, do I care about this? Like, I'm not an AI researcher. Why should I care about this? And that's still kind of the question. Unless now I think the big change is that like Adobe's going to be using it and a lot of these like film processing companies and stuff are doing it. So it's like, okay, I guess it makes a little more sense now than it did, 6 years ago. What do you guys feel about that?
Well, I'm curious. I mean, a lot of what they announced in Windows is fairly interesting. Some of it, I think people have had really strong reactions to, like Recall. But some of it is just straightforwardly cool, right? Like you can draw stick figures in Microsoft Paint and it will generate more photorealistic images as you draw. That's cool.
That's
right?
neat.
And that's one of the first examples of like a cool local AI workload beyond the Lightrooms and Premieres of the world that I can think of, because most of the other AI workloads like happen in the cloud.
Yeah.
Right. You talk to a chatbot and they happen in the cloud, or you're coding in GitHub and Copilot and GitHub is happening in the cloud. And now you've got some cool stuff that's happening locally. We should talk about Recall, which is the other big thing that's happening on the NPU. But there are not more of those. There are not more of those. There's the other stuff that's like you're playing Minecraft and the computer is watching with you and talking you through how to play Minecraft. But I suspect there's a little bit of hybrid local cloud happening there. Mm-hmm. I know it's happening with Paint because there are things Paint won't let you generate because of Microsoft's commitment to AI safety, which is weird because if you turn off the AI, you can draw any kind of dongs you want in Paint. So there's like a little bit of push and pull between the cloud and local, right? And just in terms of safety, which is really interesting to think about. Like Google Docs is a cloud application. You can type anything you want in Google Docs. Microsoft Word 365 can be expressed as a cloud application. You can type anything you want in Microsoft Word 365. You turn on AI features in Microsoft Paint, it's like you can't draw some stuff. Weird. That's just weird, you know? And like I suspect we're going to have a long conversation about those kinds of lines for years to come. But that part, just the other part of it where it's like, where's the AI happening? Is it in the cloud or is it here on the machine? It's kind of interesting that Microsoft's answer is very much like both.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the right answer, right? Again, the where one ends and the other begins is, I think, forever going to be complicated. But everyone I talk to says that the place we have to get to is both, because the stuff that you do on device is private and fast in a way that anything that happens off device just can't be. And I think about like the translation stuff Microsoft is trying to do. Like there's a chunk of that if you don't do it locally, it's going to suck, because real-time translation that has to go to the cloud is by definition not real-time translation. It just breaks. And so the thing that they launched where like you can be in Edge and it can translate a YouTube video while you're watching the YouTube video. Very cool in theory. awful with a half-second delay. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's the sort of thing that I think is that tuning that they're going to have to do to get those two pieces right is actually like the whole ball game.
Yeah.
But I think it's very cool that Microsoft is deep in this idea of we're going to start on your device. And I think that's smart and right.
And I think the other interesting part there is obviously we're barreling towards WWDC, where we expect Apple to announce many, many similar kinds of things, or at least a similar kind of focus on AI. Microsoft has the big AI part. They've got Azure and the big OpenAI relationship, and they are integrating all this stuff, and they have their own models that they're running at all sorts of scales. And so I think they're able to just like take more shots across Windows and devices and their suite of applications that runs everywhere. And that to me is like the interesting part. Like, there isn't another company that kind of has all the pieces. Whether Microsoft can execute, whether it can deliver finished applications that people like to use, whether it can make people interested in Windows, like consumers interested in Windows outside of a gaming context again, I think it's broken, and I don't believe you. Like, that's where I'm at. It's like we have to get the machines. It's interesting, Alex, that you're saying that the companies are excited, but there's a lot of investment in like Intel chips in the world and x86 applications, and that transition is going to be slow, not fast. I think they did say stuff about emulation, right?
Intel chips have had NPUs in them for a very long time. They introduced it a couple of years ago. So the big difference is now Copilot has like kind of a minimum amount of what your NPU should be able to process. So the deal is that before, an NPU would do it like, 18 tops or something, which is like trillion operations per second. So it would do like 18. And now they're saying, okay, it has to be 40. It has to be 45. And that was one of the things like Apple was bringing up tops in their M4 presentation back with the iPad, where they were like, we can do 38 tops. And you're like, cool, what does that mean?
This is great.
And then Microsoft was just like, you got to do 40. And we're like,
I love it.
Cool.
Tom
what does
is to
that
do
mean?
megapixels in my favorite possible way.
Yes.
This rules.
Yeah, we're back to like the megahertz wars or whatever.
Yeah, it's going to be super
great.
goofy. But
Core
they're
wars are here.
They're
The
really
tops.
leaning on that because I guess you'd need, they're saying, a lot of the stuff that's coming to Windows will work okay on older Windows PCs, but like you're really going to need those the neuroprocessors.
Well, but
and
also
really good ones.
Importantly, also your computer will be good, right? Like, which is not a small thing, right? The idea of all of these things, like Alex, you said this before, like if you're an AI researcher, it's a nice to have, but it is going to in other ways make your computer worse. And the promise that Microsoft came out with the Copilot Plus PCs is these computers are going to be fast, they're going to do AI stuff, they're going to have long battery life, and they're going to be good computers. And that is not a small thing in the Windows world right now, in which you've kind of had to choose one or two of those three things for a really long time. And especially with this Qualcomm stuff, if they can get the battery life there to the point where AI is not like, you don't have to buy an AI computer the way you buy a gaming computer and you like make a bunch of sacrifices in exchange for this one thing you want to work really well. If they can actually have solved these three things together, that to me is where the stuff gets really powerful. And then you get the whole scale of Microsoft and the fact that it has the App Store and the browser and the OS and the models and the cloud service. Like, that's when that becomes really powerful, if and only if the devices don't suck. and maybe possibly the devices don't suck.
Well, if they don't suck and they're affordable enough, right? Like most people are spending $700 on a laptop, and most of these laptops are in the $1,200 range, which is intentional. They're meant to go after the MacBook Air because MacBook Airs sell a lot better than everybody else's laptops.
Right. And what's interesting is, Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, talked to Joanna Stern at the Wall Street Journal, notable Verge expat, Joanna Stern, I might add. And basically was like, yeah, we're going to beat the MacBook Air. Yusuf Mehdi, who is executive vice president of Microsoft, basically is like a MacBook Air with an M3. These computers will beat those by 50% on Cinebench. So they are making huge performance claims on these PCs. Right. They're also thin and light. There's some question I think John Gruber raised about whether they have fans, as though people care.
They do. Some of them have fans.
Some of them are going to have fans.
Yeah.
Fine. But MacBooks have thermal throttling issues, particularly the Air, right? They do slow down. So if you want to run these computers really hard with AI workloads, which are essentially on a GPU-like piece of the processor, it'll make it hot. But we're expecting good battery life. And then the list of manufacturers here is Dell, Lenovo, Samsung, HP, Acer, Asus.
It's everybody.
Microsoft obviously has the Surface Pro and the Surface. That's the suite, right? There isn't. How, Alex, you've been taking the briefings. How are they differentiating these? Is it just like, are you a Dell fanboy or a Asus fanboy? And they're the same computer?
Yeah, kind of. Like everybody's bringing up their own thing. I took an HP briefing and they rebranded their whole thing, right? Because you had like the HP Spectre and the HP Pavilion and the HP something you've never heard of. Like it was just a mess. And they redid their whole portfolio into the Elite book and the Pro book for corporates or corporate stuff. And then the Omni book, which is for the rest of us. And the Omni book is like, I got to play around with one. It was really nice. Didn't get to benchmark it or anything like that. So again, we're going to have to wait and see. But it was a nice laptop. It felt like exciting and good in a way. It felt kind of like my iPad Pro with the thing on it, the Magic Keyboard, only lighter and better.
Oh, the Surface keyboard looks awesome, right? Because it's totally wireless.
Yeah, like that's always kind of the way, right? Like Microsoft has done this before where they go and they say, all you OEMs, you're going to have to like swarm around this. It's going to be the netbook or touch computers or whatever, but you're going to have to start making these. They were just like, yeah, you got to touch the screen, right? And in this case, this is the swarm around the dumbest name alive. But they recognize Apple's coming for us. You know, everybody, to your point, Nilay, you say this all the time. The computer is no longer about the rest of the computer. It's about the browser. And Microsoft has to compete with that. Like that is an existential crisis for Microsoft, right? If everybody just says, okay, I just need a Chromebook or whatever, or my phone, that's bad for them. So that's why they've put all this AI in. That's why they're really like glomming on to this trend at the moment. And I don't know, these things will be really interesting. I'm really curious to see how fast they are because Qualcomm's made these promises before, but this time they've got like this whole new team behind it, which like HP was like, well, you know, because I was like, what's different this time? You guys have released some real dog shit.
It's
HP
probably
was like,
broken and I don't believe you.
yeah. And HP was like, well, it's a new team over there. So like, we're feeling confident. And I was like, okay, well, that's different. I mean, but we'll see, right? You just kind of have to hold your breath.
Yeah, look, this is the thing about tech coverage. And I feel like we have said this many, many times, but this is like a new era and we just need to repeat ourselves. Eventually the products ship and then there's no hiding. And there's only two kinds of coverage in the world where the truth just outs. It's sports where one team wins and another team loses. And it's tech where you can hold the thing in your hand and it works or it doesn't.
Yep.
And like a lot of things have not worked recently. We are on an all-time run of things not working. Yeah. And a lot of the reason that things don't work is the underlying AI models are not reliable, which is something, Alex, you have been pointing out now for a couple of weeks. We're making these huge bets and like, it's like betting on a toddler. like, are you gonna stand up for a long time or are you just going to tip over? Like, let's build a business around you.
What was interesting was like some of the AI stuff that Microsoft was doing is stuff that we've already seen before, right? Like HP and a lot of these companies said, okay, you're going to buy one of these AI PCs. What the hell does that actually mean practically? And in HP's case, they were like, we've like thrown in the ChatGPT prompt window so you can talk to ChatGPT 3.5 on an HP computer. And I was like, cool, I don't care about that.
That's not the answer.
That's
like,
not
that
the
is
answer.
so definitively
the
not the answer.
But then the other thing they were doing was they were like, okay, well, you can also like, we can learn more about the computer to better optimize it. And that's something that we've seen from NVIDIA's been doing that for years now with DLSS. And so it's like, okay, well, that's actually useful and like a use of AI that I've seen in practice and seen at work. So I could almost get excited about that.
I also think that's where recall comes in and is actually really important to this whole thing, because what I think Microsoft did well, both at the Surface event on Monday and at Build on Tuesday, is give people examples of what AI can do on their computer.
Yes.
And the answer is not a chatbot that you could find at a website. Like that's nothing. You have accomplished nothing if that's what you've done. But what Microsoft said is and it was a lot of little things in spots, right? Where they're like AI copy and paste, copy in one language, paste in another. Like it's, you kind of have to do a million of those in order to make this case. But I think recall was the big swing where it was like, okay, here is one genuinely new thing you can do on an AI PC that you couldn't before that is better because of AI.
Yes.
And like in the whole AI world, we are severely lacking in that type of thing.
Yes.
And I feel like whether recall is any good, whether people want it, what we do with the privacy implications, all that aside, just the fact that Microsoft is like, we found a new thing we can do now because of this, felt really good to me. That was like, okay, you understand what this is actually for, which is things. Like it's for doing things. It's not for talking to a chatbot I can talk to in a web browser. It's not for a bunch of random nonsense that doesn't help anybody. Like it's for things.
Yeah, I think Ryan Broderick, who writes the Garbage Day newsletter, has been consistently pointing out that the AI industry has to talk about AGI and destroying the world to make their extremely boring demos have stakes.
That's very true.
Like you have to be like, it can see in orange. This will lead to the end of the world. Like you just fine, you know?
Yeah.
But you're right that Microsoft laid out a particular vision of computing, which is you're using a computer all day. What if you could then interact with the computer in a way that remembered all of the things you were doing and that became your companion? And we should get into the reaction and the reality of that and how it might work and the privacy implications. I think all those things are really important. I just want to spend 1 second on Nadella saying this is one of the 2 dreams people have had for a long time in the keynote, because he's not wrong, right? The idea that you live your life on the computer and all the things you do on your computer comprise your experiences, and it would be cool if the computer could help you sort those out, is in fact a dream.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it requires like one bit of a philosophical shift, which is I think most people think about that dream in terms of just like walking around the world. Like, what if you had an ambient computer or the AR glasses and you were just like asking questions and your sort of IRL experiences were that thing? And Microsoft has been like, all right, we're like, with HoloLens aside, like actually you live your life on the screen. So we can just build the thing on the screen, and then we'll get to your eyes later. You know, like, we'll put the computer on your face at a later time. What about the computer that's in front of your face? What if we made that do the thing that everyone wants? And that is a leap. It's actually kind of an interesting leap that Microsoft took first in this way, whereas everyone else has been chasing these classes. And I just like, it should be, I think noting that he called it one of the 2 dreams everyone had, and I think people are like, is that the dream? And it's like, oh, actually, we've been talking about AR glasses for like a decade. And this is just that, but just digitally.
Yeah, but once Microsoft is the company that actually like lives in the real world, unlike everybody else.
Yeah, they're not just showing some weird concept videos of like the Microsoft kin. Like,
right, exactly.
Whatever that is. Or the what was it? The Papyrus? What was that thing called? The Courier.
Oh, the Papyrus.
Courier.
R.I.P. The Courier. They probably made a thing called the Papyrus at one point.
I'm sure.
They will soon if they haven't.
Can I tell you an early story about Nilay Patel's experiences with copyright infringement? Nobody remembers the kin. This is like a thing that happened to a small number of us on the internet. But Microsoft in the early iPhone days, instead of releasing a smartphone, released a teen-focused feature phone called the Microsoft Kin. This is real. There was a Kin 1 and a Kin 2. They were banana. Like, I don't know why they did this. And they were not smartphones. They were legitimately feature phones that could like send MSN messages. And their marketing campaign was like beautiful young people in hip art districts of cities like skateboarding and talking on their feature phones. And I remixed their ads to the song Too Drunk to Fuck by the Dead Kennedys. And Microsoft immediately had YouTube take them down.
Amazing.
And I'm like, that would just be a great TikTok now. Like, no one would even ask this question now. Anyway, if you're out there, do your thing, TikTok. The Kin, by the way, we gave them horrible reviews before they even came out. Microsoft canceled them. This is a real victory of the Engadget days. Well, I don't know what we're talking about. Anyway, no, the products are real. That's what we're talking about, not the Microsoft Kin. The products are real. You can like use it. And then the reaction to them is, I don't trust this at all. It's probably broken. I don't believe you.
Yeah. Yeah, the reaction to Recall in particular was surprising to me because, like, I edited our story on it and I was like, this is cool. I'm really excited about this. Like, didn't think of the privacy stuff at all because I operate under the assumption if someone physically has your computer, then you're boned. Like you're screwed. If someone has your computer, you're done.
It's the same word.
Yeah. They're the same. Just in case people didn't understand what bone means, I want to make sure our entire audience understands. But I just didn't care. I was like, okay, cool. This is really neat, and I'm excited for my computer to be a better archive of things because that's what I use a computer for.
Yeah.
And then a friend was like, "Have you heard about how pissed people are about recall?" And I was like, "Why?" And they're like, "Because it records everything you do." And I was like, "That's literally what a computer does.
Yeah.
That's like the
Have you ever
point
looked
of
at the
them."
history tab of your browser?
I was just about to say, this is one of my favorite things to do to people is like people don't understand the extent to which this stuff is already being recorded. Like, go look at the cache files on your computer for what happens in all the apps on your computer. Like, they already know. But I think, Cranz, to your point, the thing about privacy, there are real interesting privacy implications here about
Yes.
like what happens if somebody gets hold of this? What if are there going to be new kinds of malware that can get onto my computer and chase this stuff down? Like the stakes for that go up slightly. But I do think part of the reaction was just reminding people of how much these devices already know. And the thing where it's like, I'm doing all of the stuff on here. Like this is in a very real way my life. And just the fact that that's being collected somewhere feels gross to be reminded of. Like, even though sort of intellectually I understand that that's already the case, it's like when you realize that your ISP has access to every website that you go to on your phone, even if you're on like in incognito, like, no, like Verizon still knows it's still there. Like, it just, people hate being reminded of that. And it is just such an unavoidable fact of being alive right now that it is how it is, that I think every time it comes up again, you're made to feel sort of powerless and helpless against this like incredible tide of all these electronics that know too much about me.
Well, I think it was also the fact that it's using AI, right? Like that's a big part of it. And people are having this weird moment, especially this week. And we're going to talk about it more with like what's going on with Scarlett Johansson later. But people are just having this sudden visceral reaction to AI. And so this thing was like, yes, computers archive all your data. They have done that since the beginning of time. This is just more efficient at it. They were like, that might have gone over a little easier if they hadn't also said, and we're going to use AI to do it all. Because even though the AI, everything is happening according to Microsoft, security researchers will do their thing. Everything is happening on the computer. It is not going into the cloud. None of this is being shared anywhere. It's using the NPU to like process this stuff. All of it's happening there. So theoretically, it is no different than just using your computer as normal. Only now, if a bad person gets a hold of your computer, they're going to have a little easier time recovering everything you do. That's it. But that you put AI in there and people are like, burn it to the ground.
Well, the whole road of that is so fascinating to me because I was talking to Dan Soroker, the CEO of this company called Rewind, which has been doing a third-party version of this on Macs for the last, I think, year or so now. It's another one that it uses basically like screen recording and your device audio to pull out a lot of this same information. And they actually just launched a new version that syncs in the cloud, because the overwhelming feedback from people was either hell no or hell yes. The hell no people you're never going to get. And what the hell yes people wanted was for all of this to be available to them in more places. Yep. And so it's like, we're actually in this bonkers divide where there's a set of people who, like, as soon as you present them the beginning of the road, are like, absolutely not, and just like nope their way out of this whole technological transition. And then there are a bunch of people for whom the privacy stuff is actually going to be a hindrance more than anything else. And there are going to be people who are like, well, why can't I access everything that I did on my other computer from my work computer? And then Microsoft is going to be in this horrible position of being like, well, we have to do the less private thing because it's actually what our users want. And it just like exacerbates that divide further and further. And it just, I don't know. It just feels crazy to me. Like the Rewind folks were like, I don't know what you want from us. We tried to do it as private as we could, and the people who used it didn't want that anymore.
So there's two things about that I think are fascinating. And they are expressed sort of in very tangible ways, and then I think in very esoteric ways. So the very tangible way, I did the thing when I interviewed Sundar where I handed him my phone to look at Google search results. And we ran that clip. The clip is like doing bonkers on TikTok. And in the clip, as a joke, I say to Sundar Pichai, don't dig through my phone. Like, of all the things you were ever going to say to a CEO, like a billionaire CEO of one of the largest
companies, just pulling
like,
up pics of Mac.
Literally, like, who am I? Of course I said, like, I couldn't resist it, But it was just a joke. It's just like a way to be human when you hand someone your phone. And the people in the comments are like, he already knows everything. Like, why would you tell him not to dig through your phone? Like, he's the CEO of Google. Like, if you want, he can already dig through your phone. And I think that's nihilism, right? Like, there's an element of nihilism there, which is like, it's already over. Like, you might as well embrace it and be excited about it. And then there's an element of nihilism that's like, well, I can't stop it. I'm going to live off the grid for the rest of my life. And that's one thing. The more esoteric thing that I think about all the time is, as more and more of these companies get more and more into AI content generation, the thing that they are promising the people who pay the money, which is in large part advertisers, is that they will make auto-generated ads on their platforms. So like Google will make auto-generated AI-created ads on YouTube. Meta will do it on Instagram. TikTok will do it on TikTok. TikTok actually announced AI-generated ads this week, and Mia Sato is writing with them. You're going to get to a place where you get extremely well-targeted custom content, and the people who are like, Facebook is listening to me, are going to lose their minds.
Yes.
Right? Like, the idea that you have privacy then is like out the window. Like, right now, people think Facebook is listening to them because it can target you based on your Wi-Fi networks, which is the simplest thing. It just like knows what IP address you're on. It knows that your friends have been on that IP address, and it'll like serve some ads across based on interest targeting. It's not smart. It's not stupid. It's like somewhere in the middle, you know, like it's a pretty blunt instrument, but people are convinced that Facebook is listening to them. Mm-hmm. You're going to get to a place where it knows a whole lot about you. And then it knows that you're on the same Wi-Fi network as your friend that you talk to about vacations in Mexico. And then it delivers you a video of you in Mexico. What?
Yeah.
What? Like, people are going to lose their minds. And then I think that, well, I don't have any privacy anyway. I might as well just give the cloud provider of Recall or Rewind everything. I think that might actually change in a dramatic way very quickly at that point.
Maybe. It really does seem like either the pendulum is going to swing aggressively at some point soon, or the pendulum is just going to like burst through the side.
No, you know what's going to happen.
Explodes.
Yeah, like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory style, just like launch through the ceiling and be gone.
One thing, so, like what's going to happen to the privacy pendulum? It's going into space. One thing I will note, you mentioned that the ISPs can see everything. Like, you would think that there would be a federal privacy bill, which there is not. One of the first things that the Republican Congress in Trump's first term did, literally one of the first things, was they threw out a privacy bill that would have kept your data private from ISPs.
Yep.
It was just like, hey, we're here. What should we do? We should make it so AT&T can read all your shit. Like, immediate. It was an outrage. And we have just not fixed that in years.
I tend to feel like that tension is only going to be resolved when Congress actually knows what a computer is, how it works, how to like use it. Like, when they finally...
Here's what a computer is. It is it's an AI-powered device that, if you say the right words, will bang you.
Yeah.
And I think Congress will react to that idea very powerfully.
But it will also, if you say the wrong words, share all the photos of you banging it.
Look, if you want to get something done in this United States Congress, it's blackmail and booty. Those are your choices.
That's real.
So honestly, this is a great thing, right? Like I think this tension has been there for a very long time. And I think you're right that we are coming to a point where like something's going to have to give. These companies like Microsoft are really pushing for stuff that is just completely counter to what we understand of privacy and security and what we want. And the only way that's going to change is if someone else says, hey, you can't do that. Yeah.
I think the recall stuff is really interesting. I think it's, to your point, David, it can't see what you're doing on your phone, right? So this promise that you have this companion that is sort of living your digital life with you, except for what you do on your phone, that's weird, right? And then you get into, should this be a cloud service? Are you running a background app on an Android phone? Like, Apple's not going to let them do it, right?
No.
Maybe Apple does it on its own on iOS in a couple of weeks. Like, they're going to have to bridge that gap, I think, for this to be truly successful. But then there's the piece where, we're going to have to hold them accountable to this thing being totally local. And a bunch of other AI stuff on this device is hybridized, right? Like the Paint example is hybridized. Like, I don't know. And that's why I don't want to seem overly skeptical. I I can see the jump that Microsoft made from AR glasses are too hard. We have a bunch of AI. We can basically do AR on Windows. Like AR is not the right word, but like this sort of augmented experience in Windows for your digital life.
Multimodal, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's something there. Copilot's like almost exactly the right word, right? Like you're just doing stuff on a computer and you're asking questions about the experiences you're having. A lot of people have thought that would happen first in glasses on your face. And Microsoft is like, what if it happens on the screen in front of you? Like, great. I
just want to point out, you said Copilot is the right word. Where do you stand on Copilot plus PCs?
Awful. Awful.
I don't know what that is.
Awful. Even Microsoft has trouble saying the phrase Copilot plus PCs. Like if you go back and watch, there are a bunch of people who clearly practiced very hard who still occasionally struggle to say the phrase Copilot plus PCs. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Cool product, bad name.
I just want to figure
they're
out,
never going to get it right.
why didn't they just call them AI PCs? Like, did
Just
HP
call them Copilot
get there
PCs.
first?
The hell is the plus doing there? Copilot, it's not a streaming service. What are we doing here?
Do any of these features on Windows have a monthly fee?
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Not as far as we know, I don't think. Some of it requires an OpenAI API key, which you have to pay for. Like some of the copy and paste stuff you can only do if you have the like GPT-4 key or something. But most of this stuff seems like it's going to come baked into Windows, which itself is rapidly becoming a subscription service. So I think that's where you end up getting charged for it, is like as a Microsoft's 365 thing rather than a specific AI thing.
I do love the mental image of like 3 to 5 years from now, the extremely cheap Acer PC in a Walmart with like the dented cardboard sign that's like copy and paste in multiple languages. And it's just like sitting in Racine, Wisconsin. You know? Like, and everyone's like, why? And that costs a monthly fee. And they're like, why aren't these computers selling? Like, that's going to be great for everybody. We should take a break. That's just Build. There's more. There's like yet more AI news this week. Yeah. We'll come back. We'll talk about Scarlett Johansson. It's really what we're going to do here on the Vergecast. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. There are two things I forgot to say about Build. One of which was the only reason I wanted to talk about Build. So I'll get to it. The second, though, I should just point out in the scheme of it's probably broken, I don't believe you, there was a Microsoft services outage that took down Copilot, ChatGPT search, and DuckDuckGo.
Yeah.
Because it relies
Bing
on the
survive?
Bing index. Well, Bing and ChatGPT search are the same.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
right. There was like a Bing outage. Like the Bing API went down and everything else next to it went down.
It's like when AWS goes down and all of a sudden all the apps that everyone uses just disappear off the internet. Like it's nice to be reminded that the internet basically only exists in like 4 places.
Yeah.
It's not,
just like-
I'm sure the Bing team was like, people noticed Bing was down.
Just because DuckDuckGo was down.
So that's good. The second thing I want to note, and again, I think this is the most important news of the week, is yes, many of the traditional PC companies announced Copilot plus PCs, including Samsung. And if you have been tracking Samsung, you will know that Samsung recently instituted 6-day work weeks for its executives to, quote, inject a sense of crisis into the company. Mm-hmm. They did not institute 6-day work weeks for their engineers or products, for the executives. You get a bunch of executives working on Saturdays, you get crazy ideas, which I have taken to calling Saturday Samsung. So Samsung's Copilot PC, this is a real thing. So if you buy the new Galaxy Book 4 Edge, by the way, there's no space between book and 4, but a space between 4 and Edge. All right.
Do you realize that the name of that is the Samsung Galaxy Book 4 Edge Copilot plus PC? Yeah. That makes me want to throw things.
I'm saying you had the extra day on Saturday. You could have gotten rid of a couple words. All right. But the people at Samsung, in their quest to inject a sense of crisis into the company, have decided that their single best idea is to just give away TVs.
Yeah.
So the previous one of these we covered, the previous iteration of Saturday Samsung was that if you bought a frame TV, you got another TV, which is perfect. If you buy a Galaxy Book 4 Edge, Again, there's no space between book and 4, but a space between 4 and Edge. A Galaxy Book 4 Edge Copilot Plus PC. You do receive a 50-inch crystal UHD 4K TV.
Sick.
This is the plan. I don't know
What's
what
the
to
MSRP
say.
on that?
It's $379. They're just throwing you a $380 TV. I'm sure it looks like absolute trash. I'm sure it's the same panel as a frame TV.
I was going to say.
Just a single LED backlight, just shining gray in the dark. But I just love that Samsung, they've got all the executives in there on Saturday. Just how are we gonna? It's a crisis, you guys. How are we gonna bring the stock price back up? And they're like, here's what we're gonna do. Everybody gets a 50-inch TV no matter what.
Well, you know that before that, somebody was like, what if we made them cheaper? And somebody's like, no.
No, just get rid of
We're
them.
going to go the other way. But
Yeah.
you also get a television.
We're gonna find the $380 of margin in every other product. And you know what everybody loves is a free garbage 50-inch TV. If you buy a TV, you get another TV. You buy a Chromebook, you get a TV. You buy our brand new state-of-the-art Copilot Plus laptop, free TV. That'll do it. So you're considering a Surface? Does a Surface come with a free TV? It's great. This year Saturdays is going to be amazing. Okay. Sorry. I said to David and Alex before we started the show, the only thing I wanted to talk about was Saturday Samsung, and we forgot. It's my fault.
Just excited.
I could keep going another hour on Saturday Samsung. All right. We should talk about OpenAI, who I would say did not have as successful of a week in AI as Microsoft. That's fair, right? Even though they're Microsoft's big partner, Sam Altman was on stage at Build. But I would characterize OpenAI's week as definite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Own goal was a phrase I heard used a lot.
Yeah.
And it really is like a record week for don't tweet as advice to give on the internet. Really one of the all-time what if you just didn't tweet moments from Sam Altman this week.
All right, let's run through it. It's not a complicated story. It is getting more and more complicated as more people talk, which is bad. That is a bad sign. If a seemingly simple story starts to get more and more complicated, lawyers are going to get money. I will remind you what my contracts professor in law school used to say, Stuart McCauley, why did this case get filed? And we'd all say some idealistic first-year law school bullshit. And he would say, no, the lawyers wanted a BMW. A lot of lawyers are getting BMWs at the end of this rainbow.
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson's lawyer is going to be driving
He already
a really
bought
nice
it. He's like, yeah, I'm good.
He bought it from
I'm
Disney.
Yeah, he like
He's getting
pre-purchased
another
the
one.
BMW.
He's getting
like,
a Rivian this time.
He's like, just put a standing tab at the BMW dealership. Just whatever M is coming out next, just give me one of those. Although I've heard the XM is not great. Anyway, okay, so here's the basic rundown. They announced GPT-4o, which in classic, I think it's broken, I don't believe you, appears to hallucinate more than GPT-4. Great. But the headline feature of 4o is it's multimodal. O is for Omni. It can look at stuff. It can talk to you. You can talk to it. And it has these, because it's multimodal, a lot of the demos are people chatting to it. And then OpenAI had these voices. They already had them. One of them was called Sky, which was a woman. But because of these demos, which were very voice heavy and very personality driven, because that's the other big feature of 4o, a lot of people noticed that the Sky voice sounded a lot like Scarlett Johansson, and that Sky in particular made a lot of people feel flirtatious. Right, Alex? I would say that's like
I think that's an accurate assessment of things. People got a little horny for Sky there.
Yeah, a lot of people thought they could bang an iPad last week.
Yeah, it was uncomfortable for everyone.
That's just, I mean, I don't know how else to characterize the way people feel about AI right now, except an awful lot of people want to bang an iPad. It's fine. You know, it's like some people want to give all their privacy away to a cloud. Other people, they have a particular dream. Okay, that's fine. You can.
That was the other dream Satya Nadella was talking about.
That's dream number 2.
Yeah.
What if you could tag an iPad? All right. So there's a lot of conversation about this voice, whether it sounds like Scarlett Johansson or not. And there's like a reasonable debate. Some people are like, absolutely not. Some people are like, it does. People have asked OpenAI executives very directly. Our own Kylie Robinson asked Mira Murati directly, and she said, no, it was not our intention. No thought of this whatsoever. And then Sam Altman tweets the word her, which is the movie from Spike Jonze that stars Scarlett Johansson.
Which he says is one of his favorite movies of all time and an inspiration.
Yeah. Great. So now he's undone his poor executive who was saying this was not the point. And then a very strange thing happens. OpenAI sort of out of nowhere publishes a blog post. It's like, here's how we selected our voices. That's a weird time to do it. And it's just a very anodyne corporate blog post. It's like, we had a process, we did casting directors, blah, 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 blah. Then they had our AI reporter Mia David, talk to one of their executives to go through it. They would not say that, no, they pulled it first.
They pulled it before they explained it.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like a very normal corporate anodyne blog post. Then they pull the voice. Like almost immediately after that, they pull the voice, Sky, and say, based on concerns we've heard, we're pulling this voice, which is interesting because there's only one person's concern that matters. And she is a very powerful actress in Hollywood who is married to the head writer of Saturday Night Live.
So
right?
wait, can I just pause you on that moment? I'm curious if you guys had the same reaction that I did in that moment, which is obviously Scarlett Johansson is mad.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
I just couldn't think of any other, because this happened on Sunday night or like overnight into Monday morning. I could not imagine a world in which they pulled this voice and put up this long blog post, which essentially amounted to one of those like my "we didn't copy Scarlett Johansson" t-shirt is raising a lot of questions answered by my "we didn't copy Scarlett Johansson" t-shirt. One of those moments. And we were covering this thing like, okay, they say they're just trying to allay confusion. Like I couldn't think of another plausible reason other than Scarlett is yelling.
Yes.
Right? Like, was that your reaction?
It's the only thing that could be happening here.
Yeah. Okay.
Then they called Mia David, one of our reporters, and said, we have an interview with our executive. They would not tell Mia the timeline. The only question is, did Scarlett call you? And then you pulled the voice.
Right.
Legitimately the only question here. And they're like, we heard these concerns. We want to get at it. We pulled the voice. And they just like wouldn't say the timeline. Weird. So we run the story. They said, here's the headline. Our headline is like pretty anodyne, right? It's also just like more OpenAI talking. We pulled this voice out of concerns. Here's some more color on that. Except they won't say what the timeline is. Hours later, Scarlett Johansson has a statement out, first to Bobby Allen at NPR and then widely to everyone, that says basically like, Sam Altman called me to be the voice of ChatGPT and I said no. And then, several weeks later, I'm listening to these demos and it sounds like my voice. I lawyered up and I want to know exactly how this happened.
Well, he called her like 2 days before the launch. Like he called her initially. Her timeline that she outlines is like they chatted a while ago about it, and she thought about it, and then she said, "No, I don't want to do the voice." And he's like, "Cool." Didn't hear from him for a while. 2 days before the demo, Sam Altman calls her and is like, "Hey, you reconsidered?" And she's like, "No, I don't want to do it." And he's like, "Cool."
And then she hears a voice that sounds like her.
Yep.
Right. That was a perfect Sam Altman impression, by the way, Alex. Like I know you've been working on that for a while. It's really good.
It sounded like it was in all lowercase. Then there's just one last piece of reporting from Natasha Tiku, another former Verge reporter at the Washington Post. She has talked to the agent of the voice actress that OpenAI cast for the Sky voice. Both the actress and the agent wish to remain anonymous. I have a lot of feelings about that, but they wish to remain anonymous. And she's seen some documents that lay out a version of the timeline that says OpenAI actually recorded all this and never said to this actress sound like Scarlett Johansson. So maybe there's some blurriness here. There's some old case law in the mix here. We did a story where we talked to some lawyers. There's a very famous case with Tom Waits, who has a very distinctive voice. By the way, Heath Ledger was basically doing Tom Waits' impression in The Dark Knight, which is very funny. But that's the voice. Like if you think about Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, like Tom Waits has this very distinctive voice. There's a very famous commercial where they asked the singer to sound like Tom Waits. Tom Waits sued, won. There are other cases like this where people's likeness get used without their permission. My favorite one of this is Vanna White v. Samsung. Yes. Maybe the best of these cases that exists. Samsung ran a commercial that looked like Wheel of Fortune where a robot was turning the letters and Vanna White said, "That robot is me," and won.
Wow.
Yeah. She's got like a monopoly.
It is, with all of the cases I ever read in law school, I was like, this is why I came here. Vanna White v. Samsung Electronics. So there's like a lot of these weird cases. Like you are not allowed to trade, in particular in New York and California, which is where most of the celebrities are. The state law does not allow you to trade on the license of celebrities to sell your products. That's just a thing. We have not gotten to, we cloned a voice using another actress and everyone got confused. That's new. That's a new problem for our court system that I'm very much looking forward to seeing litigated. But we're in this place where we've expanded the boundary of what you can take, right? And the AI companies are really just taking a lot of stuff without asking for a lot of permission. And I think this one with Scarlett Johansson and Sam Altman and this completely insane timeline that is getting complicated the more anyone talks is, I think, really, we talked about it in the earlier segment, people have really, really antagonistic feelings towards AI because it feels like it's taking stuff from us. And a famous actress who was in a bunch of Marvel movies, she's not the right adversary for OpenAI.
Who sued Disney.
Who sued Disney, right? Like, I don't know, man.
That's not the person you want to mess with. Yeah, I was just kind of gobsmacked by this because, I think Lake Bell does a really good Scarlett Johansson impression on an animated show where she's playing Black Widow. And she sounds a lot like her. It's great. But also she's playing Black Widow. And there's agreements in place, and that's why it's allowed. This person sounded a lot like Scarlett Johansson, and then Sam Altman tweeted her, clearly referencing this. He's talked about how much affection he has for that voice, for that concept. It's just like, oh, you really just kept walking into rakes on this one, dude. Just stop, stand still for a moment. Because, yeah, they probably did hire this woman, and she probably didn't know that she sounded a lot like Scarlett Johansson, or that's why they hired her, right?
There are so many weird twists and turns of all of this, right? Because then there's the question of, was this voice made to sound like Samantha from Her, or does it sound like Scarlett Johansson? And is there a distinction between those two things? And is that meaningful? And how much do people associate the voice of Samantha and the role of Samantha with Scarlett Johansson? That's just all of this is unprecedented in such bizarre ways. But the thing that keeps jumping out to me is that the immediate response was that, of course, OpenAI is wrong. Yes. Because of course OpenAI would have just gone and ingested the movie and used that. I mean, we've seen the technology now that you can use 5 minutes of somebody's voice and spit out a pretty passable version of that voice. Just the immediate assumption that that's what OpenAI did was either find a person and tell them to do a Scarlett Johansson impression, or screw all that, just train your model on Samantha in Her and call it a day. That this company has so aggressively lost the benefit of the doubt. It made me think of the iPad Crush commercial in the same way. Yeah. That it's just this is a company that people do not trust and people think the worst of now and believe that their intentions are bad. And I think the thing with the OpenAI thing is I think the answer is probably some weird middle sketchy thing. And it seems like the OpenAI version of the story is that OpenAI ran a pretty normal process. And then Sam Altman, who is the CEO of OpenAI, just weird went rogue and started calling Scarlett Johansson. And now there are all these things out there about how Sam just desperately wants to be famous and it's making him make mistakes. And we've gone in all of these weird directions.
Wait, hold on. Can I just say, I hate it when companies pretend their CEOs are idiots.
Totally fair.
Sam Altman is a billionaire. He is the founder of OpenAI. He is so much in charge of OpenAI that when the board of OpenAI fired him for being reckless and manipulative, the employees all staged a reverse coup and brought him back.
Mm-hmm. That's real.
And it's that's a real thing that happened just a little bit ago. Yeah. Was that the board of directors was we don't trust Sam Altman and fired him. And he got his way back in the company. He has a new board of directors. And now a bunch of employees are quitting because OpenAI is generally abandoning its safety culture. Yeah. And he's doing this reckless stuff. And I just don't buy it that the company is yeah, we are running responsibly. There's just this hothead that we reverse cooed back into the CEO role that we can't control.
You can't. No. It's just a full like lie on their part to be like, we have no control over him. It's like, well, he runs the company.
So
like,
I agree with that.
sorry.
And yet I also find it absolutely plausible that the billionaire CEO who is kind of feeling himself would call Scarlett Johansson on the side and try to get her to do
Oh yeah,
it.
no, if I had $1 billion
Completely
and I
believe
was
that.
like, my robot can plausibly make Kevin Roos thinks that it's in love with him, like I would call Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah,
Like, I
and
would
you
just
don't
see, I
tell
would
the
just see what would
people.
happen.
You don't tell these people who are doing the casting process, who then you are happy to throw to the wolves after the fact. But like the bones of that version of the story do not seem implausible to me at all. But it also doesn't matter. He's the CEO of the company. It doesn't matter.
Right. The part where they ultimately shipped the voice that sounded like her in every sense of that word, and he knew about it, and those were the demos, and I'm confident that he watched every second of those demos.
He was
and
in
then tweeted
he was
the
in the
word
audience.
her.
Yeah.
Those are his choices.
Yeah.
He
He
knew-
tweeted the word her. Like
he
it's
knew
so
the
hard
whole
to
thing.
undo that.
By the way,
fact.
your question about whether it's the movie Her or Scarlett Johansson, I will offer you the 1995 case, Metro Goldwyn Mayer v. American Honda Company, where Honda made an ad for the Civic Del Sol that looked a little bit too much like a James Bond movie and lost to MGM.
Yes.
It was not
they
James
made
Bond.
too good a commercial.
It was a guy in a suit jumping out I don't remember the Civic Del Sol. That's not a high watermark in Civic design, but it was a Civic with a top that you could like take off. And so the ad was like he's driving a James Bond like character is driving a Honda Civic, very plausible, and he blows the top off and jumps out of the car and does some James Bond stuff. And MGM said that is James Bond. You made James Bond.
Wow.
You can't have it, and they won.
Yes. That's so dumb.
I'm excited for us to go to court against OpenAI and say your robot, the precedent by which we are suing you is MGM versus American. Have you seen the Civic Del Sol, Judge? MGM, by the way, also now owned by Amazon. Just one of those things, just a weird moment in time. Because again, most of these cases took place in New York and California ages ago. Most of them are about pretty normal ads, right? Like that's why you appropriate a celebrity's likeness to try to sell something. Those days are over. Like TikTok is full of weird deepfake celebrities and just like pure copyright infringement. The number of companies right now, if you run a regular company and you want to buy a regular ad and you're like, I'd like to use Taylor Swift to sell my towels, you can't. But that's too expensive. If you're a super shady distributor of Alibaba towels and you're on TikTok, it's all Taylor Swift all day long.
Deep fakes, baby.
It's crazy. And like, there's a gap here that's happening where the law has absolutely not caught up to reality because most of these cases are about big ad agencies and big companies with big budgets running ads, right? I don't know that we're just in for a moment of chaos because the reality of what's happening on the ground is people do not care about the law, particularly IP law. And the big companies, Google, OpenAI, they are the next generation of their technology is just founded on taken stuff, which is why OpenAI does not have the benefit of the doubt. Everyone believes they took whatever they want.
Yep.
And if they wanted to, they would just make a clone of Scarlett Johansson's voice. Whether or not they cast an actress who sounded just like her, it doesn't matter because if the technology exists for them to just do it. And no one thinks they have the control to not do it. Weird.
Yeah.
A weird moment for them.
Yeah. And at least from what I've heard so far the last couple of days, I'm curious if y'all have heard anything different, is that there's no indication so far that Scarlett Johansson is actually going to like take real legal action here. She put out that one statement and we don't know what's going to happen next. But that if she did, this would have a real chance of going somewhere and being pretty important and precedent setting. In terms of like, it just feels like in so many ways we're itching for like the one weird AI lawsuit. And like, maybe it's the New York Times one, but it would be frankly a lot like wilder and weirder and more fun if it was Scarlett Johansson.
Well, I think they're probably kind of different cases. Like they're targeting different things, but they get at the same thrust of things, which is, can you just take shit?
Yeah, like what are you allowed to do in the name of AI?
Ultimately,
right.
it's, can you just do stuff?
Yeah. Right. I mean, like if I do it with a computer, it's fine, right? It's like that's the answer. And there are very meaningful differences between what you can do at a computer and what you can do in real life. Like, for example, Alex, if I came to your house and took one of your Blu-rays away, that would be a crime. for many reasons. One, it was just a crime against our friendship,
Right. I'd be very upset.
But importantly, you would not have the Blu-ray anymore. Whereas if I came to your house and copied a file off your Plex server and left, I think you'd be like, one, our friendship is strengthened.
Yeah.
And you would also have the original copy, your very legal copy of whatever content.
I would have the Blu-ray still in my closet. Yes, that's correct.
This is like a meaningful thing in copyright law, whereas it's all founded on physical scarcity. It has not translated to the world of like digital very well. On the other hand, I can just do whatever I want because it's a computer is not a workable strategy either.
Right.
There's some middle ground here that no one has ever really thought through. And I think that AI conversations, this is a conversation I had with Sundar. Like, do you feel great about OpenAI training on YouTube? Okay. The web doesn't feel that way about you. And he was like, that's weird. Everyone has to wrestle with those two ideas at the same time while we're saying, hey, some of this technology is like really cool. Like you want some of this technology. Some of this stuff is really great for people who are differently abled, right? Like how are we going to solve these problems? And Alex, I think you're definitely right that like the training lawsuit is a copyright lawsuit. Mm-hmm. And this other stuff is like a likeness lawsuit, a right of publicity lawsuit. They're different bodies of law that are very hard to distinguish for normal people. Normal people can't tell you the difference between a copyright and a trademark and a patent, right? Like this is even more esoteric than that. And on top of it, sort of the inherent nature of it is that these are celebrities. Like you don't have a right of publicity if you don't have publicity, right? And like all of the law is built around celebrity. And so you're just going to get a sequence of people, of plaintiffs who are just the most sympathetic because they are going to be celebrities.
Yep.
And at some point, like we did an episode, Sarah, Jong, and I did an episode of Decoder where we talked about the copyright law, and like that feels like a time bomb waiting to go off. Something's going to happen with copyright law and training data. It is inevitable that one of those cases goes the wrong way because there's so many of them now. It feels inevitable that particularly as these companies want to trade on famous voices, even if it's not this case. I don't know, man. Like Kevin Hart is gonna be like, that sounds too much like me. Just like sue Amazon. Like it's like one of those kinds of things is gonna happen.
I mean, it's the music thing, right? Like it's all of the like copyright trolls coming after anyone who writes a song with power chords in guitars now. Like we're gonna do that again at a crazy scale.
I feel it's a little almost simpler than that because it's kind of straightforward in that if Amazon had gone and released an Alexa voice that was Kevin Hart and it wasn't actually Kevin Hart, he would have sued. But Amazon went and said, hey, Kevin Hart or Samuel L. Jackson or whoever, do you want to be a voice? No.
But they have done that. Samuel L. Jackson is a voice on Alexa.
They paid him. Yeah. And so like I think in this case, there's a lot of precedent of like everybody else knew how to do this business. And OpenAI was like, YOLO.
Yeah. By the way, I don't know what's wrong with me that I had to immediately think of that I had to quickly think of a very distinctive voice, and my mind went immediately to Kevin Hart.
I wasn't going to comment on it, but
that's just what I had.
I was going to comment on it to you later in Slack.
It's a very distinctive voice. I just don't know. Like
I often think of you as the Kevin Hart of the Vergecast, so that
it's time to take a break, David. And we'll see if you're back when we come back for the lightning round. Weird time. It's kind of broken, and I don't know if I believe you. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. It's time for the lightning round, sponsored by Kevin Hart. Kevin, if you're listening, you can send your lawyers at us, and we'll just ask you to sponsor the lightning round. That would be great content, actually.
I'm confident you can afford it, Kevin.
Two people on totally different planets, me and Kevin Hart's lawyer. Sir, you've been lying about Kevin Hart sponsoring your podcast and me saying, would you like to?
Let's make it true.
These lies can be real between me and you.
It's beautiful.
Dreams do come true. All right, lightning round. We got to start with this one. It's maybe the most important lightning round item. The United States government, the Department of Justice, has sued Ticketmaster, Live Nation, which owns Ticketmaster. They want to break it up. This has been a long time coming, I would say. This is Taylor Swift's lawsuit. It feels fully like Taylor Swift's lawsuit.
Yeah, it really is. And this has been, I think, kind of in the wind ever since the merger happened. I mean, in 2010, right, was when the merger was. And even then, if I remember right, there was this should not be allowed energy.
This was fully, if you want to ever make the case that Barack Obama was kind of like a bad president, his competition policy where he just like let this stuff slide, like his DOJ and his FTC just let this stuff slide all over the place, like full Reagan, like this is the core of that argument. Like when people make it, like Obama presided over the Great Recession and all this other stuff in the recovery, part of it was we are just going to let these mergers slide to bring the economy back, and now we're on the other side of it. You can also blame Ronald Reagan. I prefer to blame Ronald Reagan. We made an entire decoder video blaming Ronald Reagan for Ticketmaster. You can watch that video. But basically the heart of the argument is Ticketmaster, Live Nation, owns ticket sales, obviously promotion, artist management. They own all the venues. They own 60 of the top 100 venues in the United States. And so you just have this vertically integrated monopoly. And if an artist tries to screw with it, Ticketmaster crushes them. Which means prices go up because there's no competition.
It's actually, in a very funny way, it is sort of perfect textbook monopoly stuff. Like the allegations are so simple to understand. I actually encourage people to go read the lawsuit because it really is like, if you want to understand what a monopoly looks like, it is what these allegations say Live Nation and Ticketmaster does, which is own everything and just use that to beat the hell out of anybody who tries to own anything and come at you.
Yeah.
And like the threats that they are alleged to make against artists and venues who don't work with them, the ways that they like raise fees to keep everybody out and like self-deal to each other. Like it is pure monopoly stuff if all of these allegations are true.
And at the end of it, at the very bottom of it, yep, prices are high, but service quality is low. Right? Like they don't have to invest in the ticketing platform or the app or the website because who cares?
Right. Which is why Ticketmaster broke.
Yeah, which is why there's a crush of demand for Taylor Swift tickets. Even after she told them there will be a crush of demand, can you handle it? And it still crashed. And they didn't have to do anything. Because there's where are you going to go, Taylor?
Right.
And I think once the United States government is like, where are you going to go, Taylor? She doesn't have choices.
Right. If Taylor Swift doesn't have options, there's a monopoly happening here.
Yeah. Then maybe we'll do something. But anyway, you can go read the lawsuit, and like I said, we'll drop the link. We made a long decoder about the whole buildup of this, with a lot of great interviews in it. It was a pilot. We do 2 episodes now. It was a pilot of our Explainer episode, so it was a fun one. All right, that was we got to say that one. Alex, what's your lightning round?
Salt spoon.
Totally different move.
Totally different. I actually have 2. And I feel this one is almost more important. That's
Salt Spoon is the new Mad Max movie, right? That's what that's called? Okay.
It's exactly what it's called. But I know we've talked before on the Vergecast about how you can like use electricity to make people taste things a little differently. Andrew Marino did a really good Vergecast on it. Somebody else was like, what if we put those electrodes into a spoon? And so we could take things that aren't salty and make them more salty. And as someone who grew up low sodium because of their mom, hell yes.
Yeah.
I am so excited for this. I didn't know what salt tasted like until I was like 16. Like, this is incredible. I'm so excited. But they're only selling like 200 of them. And it doesn't work if you have like heart problems, which most people on low sodium diets, that's why they're on them. It doesn't work if you're like pregnant. So a lot of the people who might want to be on low sodium diets, this won't actually work for, but it's a salt spoon, and that's cool.
Yeah. When I read this, I thought it was a spoon that just dumped salt.
No, I've got one of those in my kitchen right now.
That's just called a spoon.
Yeah. No, but that's just a real CES local news gadget, you know?
Yeah.
Like, here's a spoon that precisely delivers. No, this one just shocks you into believing there's salt, a different approach.
I love that for them. And it's from the people who do like soy sauce. It's Kieran.
Oh, nice.
So
very good.
They know salt.
They should make a sriracha spoon.
Oh my God.
They should just continue electrocuting my brain into flavor.
Just trick my brain constantly, please.
Yeah. All right, David, what you got?
We have to talk about Humane, right?
Oh, gosh.
Everyone's favorite startup. There was a Bloomberg report this week that Humane is now looking for a buyer, and I believe the price it's looking for is somewhere between $750 million and $1 billion. Also was in that story that the company has raised $230 million.
So it wants a 4x valuation.
Yeah.
At the top end.
And I would remind you that it's that Humane. It's the one we've talked about. It's not a different like B2B Humane that is very successful. truly bold strategy to come out and say, I'm not surprised this company's looking for a buyer, right? Like, I think the thing you hope for with your first product is that it gets you money to get to the second product. And then the second product is the one where you start to win, and that's where you go. Like, that's the strategy. But if you flop on the first one, and holy God, does it look like they flopped on the first one, it's very hard to get out of that. So I'm not shocked that Humane is looking for a way out. I think it's going to have a lot of trouble finding a buyer because this company is not full of people who are like beloved in the tech industry, I would say. And
at the top.
Yeah, at the top. Like Imran Chowdhury in particular, I would say left Apple not beloved by people still at Apple. That's about as much as I can report on that, but that I feel pretty good saying that. The rest of it is truly wild for this company to come out and say, we think we should get 4x what we've raised, and everyone who works here should get rich because of this terrible product that we've made.
Okay, so 2 things. 1, it's probably broken and I don't believe you. Real theme. I'm just telling you.
Well, that one's definitely broken.
Yeah, it's
we know
super
that.
broken and I don't believe you. Like, I'm just saying, we caught a lot of heat for being mean at the TED Talk. Here we are. Second, let's go through the list, right? So Apple is out. They're not going to pay them the money.
Nope.
And I concur with your reporting, and that is also about as much as I can say.
Yeah.
But like, if you're out in the mix, it's just out there. That's just information. Apple's not going to buy this company, especially because their entire pitch was, we're going to obsolete the iPhone.
Right.
Doesn't seem like the sort of thing Apple's going to invest in.
No.
Apple has the Apple Watch. They're going to be fine. They have Siri, which is a little shakier, but they got the Apple Watch. Google, no, right? That feels like a no. They're still struggling to integrate Fitbit. And they don't
Google
need a laser
has
projector.
More hardware, both like more hardware chops and more hardware issues than it can deal with already.
Right. Google, for example, I'll just do this. They just merged Android and the Pixel team under Rick Osterloh, who formerly ran the Pixel team and all of hardware. And now he runs all the platforms too. So Rick has to like keep Samsung happy, right? Like he now manages the whole ecosystem, which is really interesting, right? But can you, and he's got to figure out the rest of Fitbit, which is still messy from what I understand from V. You can't just like throw a bunch of ex-Apple designers who thought they were going running not your AI platform.
Right. And a big part of what Humane, I suspect, is trying to sell is the operating system, right? Like they've always said, we are not just about the AI pin. Like they want to be a platform. And this is a pitch you hear from everybody, but I suspect if you're going to pay anything like the price that they want, you think you're buying what has the potential to be a winning platform, not a bunch of hardware engineers. Like Google doesn't actually need more hardware engineers at this moment in time.
Is it not just them trying to be like, everybody's really hot for AI right now, we shipped an AI thing, buy our AI thing? But
their AI thing is OpenAI.
Yeah. But Samsung's got Saturdays.
If they wanted to do that, they should have sold 4 months ago, right? Like if you're just trying to capitalize, you sell before you ship and not after.
Yeah.
Well, unless you're greedy and you think you actually like...
Or they thought they were going to win.
Yeah, they thought they were going to win.
Yeah. Which is fine. Companies are allowed to work hard. Like, there's... How do I put this? There's no lack of sincerity in the Humane ecosystem, right? Like,
no,
there might be some confusion, some delusion, but not.
But they're not kidding.
But not like insincere, right? Yeah,
right.
Okay, so Google's out, right? I think Google's out just because the stuff runs on OpenAI's stack, and Google doesn't run that, and they don't need more complication. Google, if anything, is trying to streamline, right?
Yeah.
Microsoft is interesting. Microsoft runs a bunch of OpenAI stuff. They don't have mobile, right? There's lots of rumors. I think Satya Nadella is smarter than this. That's frankly just my belief there. I don't think he's like, yeah, we'll take a flyer on this nonsense. They're winning. He's like, I'm going to take on the MacBook Air.
Yeah.
That I would, but if of all the possibles, Microsoft at the top, I just think Nadella is smarter than this distraction. Samsung loves bad unfocused ideas.
Yeah.
They're in the mix. Love goofy hardware. A bunch of executives sitting around on Saturdays with nothing to do except do M&A deals.
They're going to see that story on Saturday and be like, Got it.
Can you imagine the Humane team just being given Bali?
Yeah, right. Bali.
Go figure out Bali.
Yeah, just this. Now the laser projector rolls around. Huh? Is that something?
I could actually see it. And Samsung, like, Smart Things is always an interesting version of that. Samsung actually is
Dude, the Humane Pin running Smart Things is like a pure nightmare. Just a
it's gonna run
pure,
Tizen.
absolute nightmare.
Yeah, agreed. But Samsung is has a history of actually following through on pretty big acquisitions in a way that I think could be interesting. I suspect the Humane team would not be psyched about working for Samsung. But that is maybe the funniest possible outcome.
Like they don't
I'm
get
just
laid
stuck
off.
on Samsung as a history of following their app. Have you used Smart Things, sir?
It's still there. That's
True. It's there.
It's
and
around.
I will say, for as much as I talk about the Frame TV, the people who run the services are the Boxy people because Samsung bought them a while back.
Oh yeah. Oh, Boxy.
R.I.P.
I'm not saying this is great. I'm just saying it's true that Samsung buys things and then the people continue working there.
Yeah.
All right. So LG, I think, is the same, right? If
But
LG
they're not
gets
doing
a whiff,
Saturdays.
right? But yeah, if Samsung's ahead because they're in the office on Saturday. But if LG gets a whiff that Samsung might do it, LG might buy it. LG famously bought WebOS, so a history of betting on doomed platforms and then turning them into television operating systems. You could see the Humane.
Cosmos.
What if your TV had a laser projector in it that projected onto your hand? Pretty good. Amazon feels like a hard no. Right?
Yeah.
That company is bringing it's like getting smaller, not bigger.
Panos is running all of hardware now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Panos is there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Panos is there. Like
Panos Panay is not in charge of Amazon devices and services.
he's not going to go and be like, yeah, let's buy that and integrate that into Amazon's tech stack.
If your question was which of these companies is most likely to ship something that resembles the AI pin in the next 3 years, I think it might be Amazon.
I would agree.
But I don't think Amazon would get to that point by acquiring Humane.
No, my question is who will spend $1 billion on Humane?
The answer to that is like Steve Mnuchin or something. Like some
Social
weird,
now runs the AI thing.
Exactly.
But I'm just saying my list is Samsung, LG if they get a whiff of Saturday Samsung, and then like distant 5,000th place third Microsoft.
Yeah.
I think that's probably right.
Who else has $1 billion? Costco. It's Walmart. I'm just thinking like the people that work at Oracle. Who thought about buying TikTok but would buy Humane instead?
It'll end up being like Verizon or Comcast, who's just like really excited about a new. They're going to be like, this is your TV remote on your lapel, and everybody's going to be like, no, thank you.
The idea of the Humane design team bringing that energy to launching like the next Fios remote. It's very good.
That's compelling.
Right? Just like on stage at TED being like, you can turn the volume up and down.
Yeah. I do want to know though, by the way, if you're listening and you have an idea of a company that either might or should buy Humane, tell us.
Exxon.
Vergecast at theverge.com. Call the hotline 866-VERGE11. I genuinely want to know because I bet there is an interesting match or two that we're not thinking of. And I would love to know what they are. Ford. There you go. Drive your car with your it's gonna be Elon Musk and it's gonna be Grok and it's just gonna be the Grok hardware.
Don't summon that.
Rough. All right.
Grokmos.
We'll see what happens. I mean, again, it's just a Bloomberg report. Humane itself has not said anything, but I strongly suspect they need to get out the game. I also suspect Rabbit's gonna end up in the same spot very soon.
All right. I got to do one more.
Okay.
Apple, you know, sometimes you get photos on your phone and you're like, that's a terrible photo. You delete it. Or you're like, ooh, that's too spicy to keep here in case my mom sees my photos, and you delete it. And there was an unfortunate bug where those photos just popped back up into people's things, into their phones. And Apple said nothing, but they corrected it just with the latest OS update. So you should no longer have reappearing nudes or whatever else. And Apple has said nothing about that too.
Yeah, it's weird to confirm a bug like this by issuing an iOS update and then saying nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
That's
were
weird.
like old. My understanding is it's like not just, a photo you deleted last night. It's like,
So people are getting like years old photos, right?
yeah. So that's terrifying. But at the same time, with recall, I would have loved that. So I don't know where I stand on this, but I do stand on like, yeah, if I delete something, I generally want it deleted.
Do you believe it's deleted, right?
Yeah,
Is
I want to believe
gone?
it's deleted. I want to know where that data goes when I make a choice about it. And I think that's the difference between recall and this. Like recall, you will know where the theoretically, where the data goes once the security researchers actually figure that out. This, we don't know. Big caveat.
Yeah, this is weird. I think, we are, part of our job is holding big companies accountable. And it is truly irresponsible for Apple to not say why this happened and what they did to fix it. There's a bunch of people on Reddit who love to argue with me on threads who are like, we figured it out and you're overhyping this. And it doesn't matter because we didn't cause the bug. We didn't fix the bug. It's great that you have a theory about why it happened. The theories sound wonderfully plausible. I love it. I don't know what happened.
Right.
There's one party that knows what happened and they should be accountable for their mistake because this is a big mistake. And it's weird that we give them a pass.
Yep.
And so, we can't force them to, all we can do is send emails. That's the Sheriff Nilay has got Mime Stream and he pushes that button every day.
Yep.
That's all we can do. And we just can tell you they have not responded to any of our emails or any of our phone calls about this. And I think that's fundamentally irresponsible because you're playing with people's, like some of the most personal data that exists. Anyway, hopefully they say something soon. If not, I'll just keep sending emails. What else is there to do?
Yeah.
In my administration, they would go straight to jail. Vote for Patel. Last one. I'm actually excited about this. Sonos Ace headphones are out. A shout out to Chris Welch, who covers every square inch of the Sonos beat to the point where I think Sonos, like the Sonos Reddit, like waits for Chris to come around. And then like Sonos itself is just like, oh no, Chris is here. It's great. He scooped the headphones, obviously. They look great. They're like a cross between like the Sony vibe and an AirPods Max vibe. The $450 is expensive. The headline feature is if you're watching TV on a Sonos soundbar, you can push a button and the audio will come to your headphones. I want this to be compelling to me, and it's not my use case for these things.
I think that's a really compelling if you are married and you live in a small home and you want to stay up late playing video games or you want to stay up late watching TV.
Yeah, Nilay in his cavernous mansion wouldn't
Yeah,
understand.
Nilay, your house is just too big to fully appreciate.
Yeah.
The,
But
Nilay's in his home theater.
No, it's not. It's the real-time switching that I understand that sometimes you want to watch TV and listen to headphones. I got you.
yeah,
But the part where you're like, well, I started with the sound bar.
because they walk out of the room, they say, "I'm going to bed," and now you're just like, "Boop, yeah."
Yeah, I can see it. But that's
It's
a headline
just-
feature. By the way, that feature, oddly, is iOS only right now. Soon coming to Android. Weird. Spatial audio, aptX, if you have Android as well, no high-res anywhere else. It's Bluetooth everywhere except if you're doing the weird TV thing.
Mm-hmm.
Probably for battery life. And then obviously this all comes on the heels of the disastrous app launch, which Sonos won't come out and say, but it feels very obvious that they set the timing of the headphone launch. They needed the app for the headphones.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the app came out before it was ready. If any other sequence of events occurred to make the app come out before it was ready, I would be shocked. I wish Sonos would just say it. Like Chris talked to Patrick Spence, CEO of Sonos, and he was like, well, the app was just ready. And it's like, why don't you just say we put out the app because the headphones are coming out? That would be fine. Or give people a choice. Don't update the app yet.
Right. Yeah. Ship it as if you buy the headphones, here's the new version of our app. It's going to be rolled out to everybody before long. Like it's not a hard sequence of events to do. But instead, Sonos was like, oh, this doesn't have queue management, which is what everyone wants. Let's ship it anyway.
So I have no problems with this app. I'm the only person in America who has no problems with this app because we don't use the queue. We use playlists. Our playlists are in Spotify and Apple Music. And so like, whatever.
I just don't use the Sonos app.
Same.
Right. That's what I mean. Like Becky just uses AirPlay
Yeah.
for our Sonos. But it's fine. It is a little bit faster. I know other people have wild problems. Like Casey Newton is like, I can't even set the volume on my speakers anymore.
It's really bad if you have a local music collection that you care about a lot too, which is like, and Chris and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that like those are the core Sonos people and have been for 2 decades. And Sonos just continues to try to drive them away in very strange ways.
Yeah.
The headphones look sick though.
Because there's 6 of them.
Right. This is the classic story. The company is chasing the bigger consumer market where the money is and the growth is. And then you've got these like very passionate users who are like, my entire life is one button, an app from 2004. And we are the people in the Reddit.
Yeah.
Well, what are you gonna, like there's a dynamic there that I'm, as a person who redesigned our website, I'm aware of the people who are mad.
Yeah.
They've released apps before concurrently. They had the 2 versions of the last
that was a
Sonos
disaster.
app. It was horrible, but they had 2.
No, that's a disaster. Like Sonos
it's all bad.
now.
Sonos is
look,
just bad
Patrick
at
has been
apps.
on the show a bunch of times. We've talked to him about a lot of things, everything from spatial audio and like how they design speakers, all the way to like antitrust. Like he's been on the show. They have mismanaged, in particular, these apps and what the apps do and how the apps work. Like the S1 to S2 transition, disaster. The Sonos, like, we're gonna trade in your old speakers, and then like we're gonna brick the old ones, and they undid it. That was bad. Like there's this thing that they're in particular not good at.
Which is wild because
they should get better at it.
The magic of Sonos is how it works with all your stuff, and it just talks to each other. It's supposed to be super smart, and yet the app continues to be kind of dumb.
Yeah, and again, I have not had because I don't use some of these features. Like, what was it? Timers and alarm clocks are broken in this app, and the idea that I would set my alarm clock using the Sonos app is just what. But like, if you are the person,
But a lot of people do. Yeah.
If you're the person whose alarm clock broke, like you are mad.
Yeah.
That's a problem, right? Like you should find a way to be like, okay, these core features. There's some of these core features where people just like build their lives, like alarm clocks, or people build their lives around it. You have to respect it. And like in this case, I think Sonos, as they've gotten more and more consumer, they've sort of like gotten away from it, and they should just recalibrate that a little bit. That said, I have like 9,000 Sonos speakers. Like I'm trapped in this ecosystem. Like, what are you going to do? It's fine. All right. I think that's it. That's it. David, do you have another one?
Nope. That's it. We're
All
done.
right. We got to wrap this thing.
Spotify has a font.
Spotify has a font.
That's all. That's all the information I have for you.
Yeah. Amazon might make you pay for Alexa once they add AI to it. It's like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The big thing is that I'm going to go try to call Scarlett Johansson now and see if she will voice Verge's AI.
Yeah.
It's revenge.
Do like AI Colin Jost to call her.
Yeah. I will say a friend of mine was like, Google should just take this voice now. They should just pay her whatever amount of money she wants now.
Yeah.
If there's like an arms race for celebrity AI voices, that would be very entertaining. All right, that's it. Also, my voice is available for cheaper than Scarlett Johansson's, in case you're wondering. It's hard
Is
to
she
reproduce.
the most expensive? Like, who do you, is it like, I feel like it's either like Scarlett Johansson or Ryan Reynolds. This is
It's
a
like
whole
James
other
Earl
hour of the
Jones.
Vergecast we could do.
No way.
In terms of like, no, James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones, Mufasa, and Darth
It's
Vader.
important to everyone that I remind you that Alex Cranz is 66 years old. And if you've never heard of any of those words that she just said, don't worry.
They all know who that is.
I mean, aren't there's like hasn't Amazon set the market? I guess the rates are going higher, but
Yeah.
this is a thing that exists. You can just buy other voices from Amazon, right?
Yep. You can.
All right, send us your notes with who you think the most expensive voice would be. We'll read your ideas.
Everyone's going to agree with me.
It's
It's
David
fine.
at theverge.com, everybody.
Yes, please.
All right, that's it. That's the Vergecast. Rock and roll.
And that's it for the Vergecast this week. Hey, we'd love to hear from you. Give us a call at 866-VERGE11. The Vergecast is a production of The Verge and Vox Media Podcast Network. Our show is produced by Andrew Marino and Liam James. That's it. We'll see you next week.